Hi, I'm Kenny Anderson, Director of Multicultural Affairs for the City of Huntsville, and welcome to Impact. I'm delighted each week to bring you information about exciting things that are happening in our community, and today will be no different. One of my responsibilities in my role is to work with neighborhood associations throughout our community. There are currently about 30 of those groups of individuals who are just simply residents who are concerned about the quality of life issues that affect all of us in the City of Huntsville. Some community organizations come together once a month, some speak to one another on a less frequent basis, and some meet annually, but these organizations are good ways for people to get engaged with the community and be able to really bring about a higher level of quality as it relates to the quality of life in this community. Today joining me are three individuals who are going to talk a little bit about their experience from the ground level with regards to these neighborhood associations, and I want to introduce them at this time. I'm going to start with Bill McDowell. Bill McDowell is Executive Director of Second Mile Development Incorporated, and welcome to Impact.
Well, thank you.
It's good to have you
here. Yeah, thanks.
It's good to have you here. Yeah, it's good to have this opportunity to talk about what you're doing and what your passion is and why you're interested in the whole development of neighborhoods throughout this community.
Right. Well, we've been working in Terry Heights for nearly 30 years now, and we're just excited about what's going on at Terry Heights and the changes that's happened, the transformation that's happened from the residents that's done most of the real work and the real changes that's happened and what's happening there. We've just seen crime go down, more home ownership. It's just been a miraculous change.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk quite a bit about that, and this is one of the reasons I was really excited to have you guys on, because I just don't think there are enough good stories being told these days. You know, sometimes when you turn on the television or you talk to a friend or neighbor, they're talking doom and gloom. But I think that the story of Terry Heights is simply that this was a community faced with challenges that rose to the challenge and found a way to resolve some of those challenges. And I think that that's exactly what more people need to hear about in our community.
Mm-hmm. And Terry Heights also just has a great historic reference to Huntsville as well and the state of Alabama. And that's the one thing when we started in Terry Heights, what we wanted to really do was know everything we could about Terry Heights and become a good neighbor to all the residents in Terry Heights. And it's just been fun to discover the treasures that are there. And just to throw one of them out is right next to Holy Family Catholic Church there off of, trying to think of the name of the street, Beasley, I think, and is a state marker that says integration actually began in the state of Alabama at Terry Heights. And
wow.
So I think that's kind of a fun little fact to know about our community.
Yeah, well, yeah. You have some people with you today as well. Tami Jordan is here. Tammy is the the director of the Terry Heights Hillandale Neighborhood Association. Welcome to Impact.
Well, thank you. Glad to be here.
That's good to have you today. And of course, you're going to be able to share information from your unique view as the director of this organization.
Well, as a director, going into the community, working with our residents, we had concerns as far as some of the things that what they wanted to have in the neighborhood. And what I pulled from that was like resource fairs, job fairs, health fairs, things that we really needed, and also as far as a farmer's market as well for healthy issues in our neighborhood. And I've been the director for over 10 years now, so just wow. Glad to be a part of the neighborhood and watching it grow, the homes and the crime. Like Bill mentioned, the crime is it's low, and just glad to be a part of that and to have that neighborhood. It's just a wonderful neighborhood.
How did you become the director? Because oftentimes you see these kinds of operations and there's somebody who's been involved for maybe a few months, few years, maybe more. You've been at it for 10 years. How'd you get involved?
Oh, wow. Glad you asked. Mary and Jean Oakley, Mary McDowell, Bill's wife, and Jean Oakley, they are parent coordinators, the directors for Second Mile. And I was a parent coordinator, starting out as a parent coordinator for Second Mile, working in the preschool. And I just remember one day they were so excited as far as looking for someone to run the organization, Terry Heights Neighborhood. And I was like, are they talking to me? Are they talking about me? And they asked me, and she said, well, we got to talk to Bill. And that's how I got the position. And she told me, she said, you better make flyers, just make it happen. Basically, that's like what Bill told me, is you run it, make it happen. So that's just what I've been trying to do ever since, make it happen.
Were you used to managing or running things at that time? Because it's amazing to me when I hear people say what you just said, because oftentimes the position is a default position. It's like it's out there, somebody needs to do it, but nobody wants to take on that responsibility. And obviously there are a lot of pieces to whatever it is that needs to happen. So did you face any of those challenges, or were you just so blindsided that you didn't know enough to say no?
Well, I know I've always said, Kenny, that one thing I did say, I always want to help people. That was one of my things. If I can just help people, and then having a job to be able to allow me to do things to help someone, as if I, needing help myself as a single mom, as far as resources, and I need to go here to find utilities, where would I go? So by working as a director, I'm able to pull those resources and help the people in the neighborhood. If there's, like, we're surrounded, we have our doctor's office around the corner, and people need clothing. We have our neighborhood store, and if they need baby clothing, I can direct them to our baby thrift store. It's just able to have the resources, which we do, and I'm just very thankful for that.
Enorris Johnson has been very patiently waiting down there to get his turn in on this conversation. I'm going to call you the historian in this process today, because I know you got the true story of Terry Heights. But Enorris is the president of the board of directors for the Terry Heights Hillandale Neighborhood Association. Welcome to Impact, first of all.
All right, thank you, and I'm glad to be here. I just want to kind of add to what Bill and Tammy said. I've been living over there for about 28 years. And I remember seeing a building down there on the corner of Cherry Street, and I always thought somebody ought to do something with that brick building down there. It was a nice looking building. And the next thing I know, Second Mile Development was moving in there, and it was a preschool. I was like, oh man, that is great. That's something we needed over here. In the interim time, though, I helped establish the first community watch over there, because we had never had one over there in Terry Heights, which had a big impact on the lack of crime. Drove the crime rate down, because people don't like to be in the limelight when they doing something wrong. One of the other things that we did, Bill and I worked very closely together and putting together an ad hoc committee to establish the board of directors. For a long time, he and I was Terry Heights Hillandale organization. Okay? I can remember times that my Fridays off, because I work, what they call an alternative work day, and Bill and I would be downtown talking to someone about what needs to be done in Terry Heights, and we did quite a lot of stuff. We got a lot done. But with the ad hoc committee, we got organized. We had some board training, elected officers, and everybody put in place. And since that time, Second Mile has been a good neighbor. They've done some great things over there. I've also joined Second Mile, so I mean, I'm trying to be involved in every aspect of what happens in Terry Heights. Tammy has done a great job as a director. You give her a job, she does it, and I'm a firm believer as a leader in the military and my last job that when you give a person a job, let them do it. And only come in when they need some assistance, and she hasn't needed a lot. She's done a great job putting together things in the community that tell people what kind of services are available. A lot of times that's all people need to know. They know what's available. They don't know they can get help from different organizations, and Tammy has been good at having those during our community meetings. We have those different elements there from different organizations telling people about what kind of services are available.
Before we get too much further down the road with all this great information, I'm really excited about talking more specifically about some of the kinds of things that have happened over the last few years. Bill, tell us what Second Mile Development, Inc. is and how it got started.
Second Mile Development started in 1986. It was a group of men, and I wanted to actually do a Christian outreach into a neighborhood. And we wanted to be somewhat different than most charities, and we actually took some boundaries on a city map and drew and said, University Drive on the north and Governor's Drive on the south and Pulaski Pike on the east and Triana Boulevard on the west. And we looked at those two census tracts from the 80s census, and that area had the highest number of single-parent families below the poverty line, had the highest crime rate in the city, had a large number of crack houses and houses of prostitution. And we felt like we wanted to become a part of that community. And the thing that we wanted to do different was we wanted to come into the neighborhood and start asking people what they would like done.
Right.
Instead of saying that we wanted to come fix the neighborhood, we just wanted to become friends and neighbors. And as I was going through the neighborhood and meeting people for the first time, I was asking them what they would like done here. And one of my background, my educational background is in sociology and psychology, and I'm thinking it'd be nice to have a nice counseling center, do some good counseling and things like that. One mom said to me, well, the one thing we don't need down here is someone telling us what we need to do and not do. What we need is maybe a good start for our kids. We need jobs for our young people and for people in the neighborhood. We need things like that. We need help. We need people to be our friend, not to come in and tell us what to do. So out of that came, so all the things that we do in Second Mile have been suggestions from the neighborhood. We haven't done anything on our own. We do things to help the neighborhood be successful, and we want to promote the neighborhood more than we want to promote Second Mile development.
And you know, there are a lot of models as it relates to providing services and care for people in various areas where there are needs. And this whole model of going to people without the notion of sort of riding in on the cavalry and we're going to rescue these folk and we're going to save them from themselves and all the circumstance situations really is a great model because it includes people, number one, but it also engages them in a way that affirms who they are,
right,
and also stresses the value that they place on their own lives.
And one of the first things that we discovered about ourselves is, in one way, at first, how hypocritical we were in our statements. Is when we started working in Terry Heights Elementary School, at that time, that school was scoring one of the lowest academic schools in the city of Huntsville. And so we started recruiting people from other parts of town to come in and tutor and do those kind of things. But we kept telling people the parents in Terry Heights care for their kids and want to be involved. But we realized, this is the hypocritical part, what we're doing, is we never asked the people in that community. So we decided, we stopped asking people in other parts of town and went to our neighbors and said, would you be involved? Would you be involved with your children? Would you? And what was interesting about that is everyone said, we want to be involved, but help us learn how. And so out of that came our Parent Initiative program. And from that moment, and this was 25 years ago, where Terry Heights had a PTA of about 3 or 4 people. The next year it had about 100 members, and years after that it had 100% participation from parents in the community and everything. And they became officers and ran fairs, and they bought the sign outside for Terry Heights Elementary School. They redid a new curtain on the stage, a new sound system for the school. They did air conditioned their gym, all the things that parents can do. But this was not Second Mile. This was the parents in Terry Heights.
Coming in Second Mile, coming alongside to provide some support in helping them achieve their dreams.
And also, as a nonprofit, focusing on the people, not bringing in other people.
If I may inject, I think, and I agree with what Bill is saying, I think the people in Terry Heights wanted a helping hand, not a handout. There's a big difference between helping someone and getting them a handout. You're not helping correct anything. You're not helping them achieve what they want in life. And I think that Second Mile, the neighborhood organization, both have tried to do those types of things, help people, not sit there and say, well, you need rescuing, so we're going to save you in spite of yourself. No, we're going to help you save yourself. And I think that makes a difference in people's life.
Pride of ownership for sure. It's a huge thing to be able to say that the investment that I make in something is the thing that really matters in the whole process. And Tammy, you talked about various services. You talked about a neighborhood store. I've had a chance to see the farmers market in action, and It's a thriving experience. There's lots of energy around it. It's not just a farmer's market, but there are cooking classes, there's information being shared, there are medical screenings taking place. There's lots of stuff that, again, focuses on improving the quality of life for all people. Talk a little bit about some of those components.
Well, I asked the residents, walking around in the community, asking them what are some of the things that you want to see or want to have done in our neighborhood. Because me personally, being a director, I don't want to just take charge and say, hey, this is all about what Tammy wants. But when I walk around and I ask the things like health fairs, that's an issue. We had a needs assessment back in 2009, and our needs assessment was high blood pressure, diabetes, which I'm a type 2 diabetic myself, and just making sure people are eating correctly. So that was one of the main things that stood out for me and for the community because of our health issues. And, and then being part of the Healthy Huntsville too as well, to making sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing and having other resources there to help us. But those were some of the things that we wanted the residents to do, and so that's why we're doing those things now as far as health fairs and other healthy issues that we have going on.
And the neighborhood store, you mentioned that a couple of times. It's a
neighborhood
resource that
store,
people
yes.
can actually access.
Yes, they can go there, and then there's, with people that have babies, they can go to neighborhood baby thrift store to get clothing there as well. And what I just love about Terry Heights is just the fact that people, it's like family, because we lose family members, and then when you go and talking to people, everybody has concerns. You have people that may be depressed or whatever, and just by talking to them and just able to turn them over to the resources that they need to get the help. And that's what I love about what I do, that I'm able to help someone to get all the resources, because it's there. It's there.
Enorris, you've spent almost 30 years in this community, and you've seen it go from a very depressed community with many different challenges. You talked about high crime and other things like that, and you've actually seen remarkable changes over the years as a result of the community making an investment in the community. Over your experience, what could you say to other communities? Maybe there are people out there listening today who have similar challenges. What would you say to them to give them a sense of hope and optimism as it relates to the challenges that they may be facing?
Well, the first thing I would tell them, Ken, is don't give up. That's the first thing. Second thing is get involved. Your involvement can turn a community around, and Terry Heights is a good example of that. People involvement. We have some people that come to almost every community meeting we have. And I've seen this Terry Heights go from, like you said, high crime and depression to what I see now is a lot of joy. People feel safer walking the street. And I see that we are moving forward. There's new homes being built in Terry Heights, and we have a new school coming. And I think with all those things, it shows that, and they can't hardly, actually the houses have almost a waiting list for them. That's just how hard it is to get one of them.
Very nice houses, too.
And they're very nice houses.
Yeah.
And I think that show you that people are willing to move in, take ownership of the property, and they are glad to be there, where at one time, I think people was happy to leave. So I think we got more home ownership. We got a good perspective on things. And I just see that the neighborhood is going to continue to improve and get better and better and better. So what I'd say to other neighborhoods, don't give up and get involved. Those two things will help turn around a lot of things. But a lot of times people just don't know that, and I'm trying to send that message out to them. Be involved and stay involved.
And Bill, of course, that's the message of Second Mile. That's what motivated you so many years ago.
Right. And
get involved. You saw an opportunity, basically, and dove right in.
well, we saw that opportunity just to become, well, we wanted to learn to be neighbors. And one of the things I was thinking when Tammy was talking about that, to me, one of the most important things that we do, or that the neighborhood organization does, that's what I'm referring to, is they do something that's so old, and is they do welcome wagon. Every new person that moves into the neighborhood, or if some tragedy happens, like a death or something, they take a basket of food and welcome, and I think that's such a neat kind of thing to do.
Absolutely.
And it lets us meet them on a nice basis, and we also get to share other information about the neighborhood organization, what the sort of the neighborhood ethic is, that we care about one another here.
Right.
And what we discovered a long time ago is people don't know their neighbors anymore.
Nope.
And so we make a big effort in the farmers market. We put a tent up just for the neighbors to come and sit around and talk, and we tease and say that's the liar's tent. We solve all of Huntsville's problems in that tent, and we solve a lot of the nation's problems right there too. It's just we can't get anyone to listen to us, but we have solved them, and they are solved. But it's been really a neat thing to see the community come alive and come together through those different things. And there's some research that's been done that what speaks to what a healthy neighborhood is, and it's some real simple things. It's how often people, how much time they spend in their front yard, and how many neighbors they know around them by name. Those are the two factors that make a healthy neighborhood. So if you go through Huntsville and say, how many, you may have a nice affluent looking neighborhood, but maybe no one knows each other.
Right.
And that may not be, it may look nice, but might not be healthy. In Terry Heights, people know one another.
That's true.
Oh,
And they spend time in their front yards, and they're walking the sidewalks and all those kind of things. So it is a great place to be.
Yeah. You know, as I'm listening to you talk, I think about the whole notion of values and those old values that worked so well back in the day when people did know one another and people did take responsibility for their community.
Absolutely.
And there was pride of ownership, and that there was this sense that as far as this community goes, we stand or sink together.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so it really sounds like Terry Heights has embraced that model. I'm going to start calling Terry Heights the Mayberry of Huntsville. Because, I mean, you know, I automatically had this vision of Andy Griffith and his son Opie, and just a small, quaint community where people are talking to one another. Maybe it's a stretch, but I mean, you know, but we're headed in that direction where we got the familial thing going on where people really care about one another.
Yeah.
And it's small community living. I mean, I think that's so important to stress because, like you said, Bill, you can have a much more affluent looking community and have so much more fragmentation in that community as a consequence of people not really knowing one another. And there was a book that came out a few years ago called The Day America Told the Truth, and it said that almost 80% of us don't know our neighbors anymore.
Right.
And you think about that, you sign a mortgage for 20, 25, 30 years, and then you don't even get to know the person
neighbor.
living right next to you.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't even make any sense.
No, it doesn't make sense at all. So I think as a neighborhood organization, we're trying to focus on getting people out, letting them see their neighbors, talk to their neighbors,
right.
Yeah.
and that's what's going to make the neighborhood healthy.
And staying connected.
Yeah.
So we've got about 2 minutes left in the broadcast. I'm going to give each of you a chance to kind of wrap things up. You may want to just share something with the listening audience, just to kind of summarize what you've said, perhaps related to the vision for the future, perhaps with regards to specific things that people can look forward to from Terry Heights. One thing I'll say is that we can look forward to great things coming from Terry Heights. I think Terry Heights has definitely demonstrated that it's a model for leadership as it relates to this community in terms of how neighborhoods should be structured and how neighborhoods can face adversity and overcome because they never give up.
There you
That's
go.
right.
So I'll start with Bill.
Well, I'd just like to close with the thing of the new school, the Sonny Hereford School coming to Terry Heights. That Terry Heights neighborhood wants to welcome all the other students from the other neighborhoods, and that they will be safe there. It will be a great place for them to be, and we're looking forward to welcoming them to the neighborhood.
And that's going to be a great school, and it's named after a great person, too.
Right.
Dr. Hereford's just an amazing man.
And Bill took mine, but I'd like to add to that our farmers market, you know, for 2015, looking for that to open up in June 2015, of course. And just anyone's feel free to call if you want to tour the neighborhood or you just want to drive around the neighborhood, you're more than welcome. So
And I think that's a great idea too, because a lot of what we began with was talking about perception and perspective.
Right.
Right.
And just take a look at what's happening.
That's
You know,
right.
don't sit back and fear and worry about stuff
That's right.
or gripe about things. Go find out what's happening.
That's right.
You know,
And I'll say that point you just made real good. Don't gripe about things. Find out what's going on. A lot of times people have the wrong idea of what's going on, and that's something that I think we have done a good job at trying to educate people on what's happening in the community so that they're more aware of what's happening in their surroundings. And again, like Bill said, I really think the schools brings a new perspective to the neighborhood.
Yes.
I think it's going to be a great thing for the neighborhood. And the houses being built is another good thing in the neighborhood. That shows you that the neighborhood is beginning to prosper.
yeah.
Right.
So anyone that thought that it wasn't a good place to stay, take another look.
Yeah. Community reinvestment
Right.
That's
is
right.
a beautiful thing.
That's
And
right.
has benefited Terry Heights wonderfully from the grassroots.
Absolutely.
Yes.
People taking responsibility at the grassroots level. Enorris Johnson, he's the president of the board of the Terry Heights Hillandale Neighborhood Association. Thank you for being here.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Tami Jordan is the director of the Terry Heights Hillandale Neighborhood Association.
Thank you.
And
Kenny,
Bill McDowell is
appreciate it.
executive director of Second Mile Development, Inc. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Kenny. Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate you.
We thank you for being a part of our broadcast today, and we hope that you'll tune in for our next edition of Impact. In the meantime, we hope that you have a great rest of the day, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.